we'll just start with a brief, kind of work you are doing at present at
Yes.
WI. Then I'll go back and we'll ask some questions. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, shall I start? Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Please. Please. Yeah.
Okay. So right now, yeah, as you have mentioned, in June only I was appointed as a scientist here, and now I'm working like my PhD is yet to be finished. So hopefully this year or maybe by January or February next year. That's what my yeah, hope is. So, but with this position, super busy with other things. So, I am dealing with my
Mhm.
PhD project and also some other project which has not yet started yet. So, which is not official,
Mhm.
and teaching with for the MSCs, and very soon there will be diploma courses or certificate courses that will be also coming
Okay.
in, like training forest officers and all. So
Mhm.
yeah, for now, this is all what I'm involved in currently.
And
Yeah.
and projects on birds.
On birds, yes, because I've been working on birds, but I'm planning to like widen my you know projects and or ideas. So I'm still
Mhm.
developing an idea for like
Mhm.
releasing some project on my own,
Mhm.
but I'll
Mhm.
be part of some other projects. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yes, but
So I think
yes,
it will be. It
primarily
will
on
be.
birds.
Okay. So it will definitely be more than birds.
Yeah.
Uh, so to that. I was when I was reading some of your interviews, somewhere
Yes.
you wrote like after spending these are your words,
Hmm.
after spending 20 long years of reclusive life in Delhi, I realize I do feel alive when I'm out in the wild watching birds. So is it same for all Delhi people? And when did you realize it was after your 12th standard?
Okay, I'm not sure if it is same for all Delhi people because some
Mhm.
Delhi people really like to be in Delhi. I also enjoyed my life while I was in Delhi, but it was
Mhm.
now it's quite different. It's very different. So for the last,
Mhm.
I think last 5 years, 2018, I moved out of Delhi to here, and I really enjoy it now. Like it's good. So life is definitely slow here than Delhi.
Mhm.
But I think it's closer to nature. Whenever I have like I feel low, I can go out. And today also I was
Mhm.
out, and it's
Mhm.
good that way. And also like by saying that when I was in Delhi, that was a totally
Mhm.
different life. What I actually mean is in Delhi, I was not. I did not start my work in this aspect of wildlife science. Mostly it was my
Mhm.
schooling and then college, and
Mhm.
during my masters I was doing my dissertation on remote sensing and GIS, which was completely
Mhm.
like laptop based work. So I was not working anything out in the field, and that's how my life changed when I came to Dehradun, and it's totally
Mhm.
different than what I was doing earlier. So, yeah.
In during a master's. Hmm.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I would just simply ask why you selected life sciences. It was just you went with the flow, or
Okay.
after your 12th standard you decided.
So yes, for my bachelor's, I did go for life sciences. This was partly because I was not sure whether I'm more inclined to zoology or botany. I definitely did not like chemistry, but maybe I just did not go through the course with care because chemistry was all through in all the semesters.
Hmm.
And I think I was pretty good in that. I don't want to boast, but 11, 12, my chemistry was not good. But in
Hmm.
bachelor's, it was fine. So I was able to,
Okay.
good out of it. But yeah, life sciences because I get to, learn more about plants and animals as well.
Hmm.
And now I'm working only in the zoology domain, but still that the little bits that I learned from the botany that are still helpful, and it's like because I work on birds, but it's not definitely like I have to only look at the birds. I also have to look for the relations with plants or
Yeah.
trees, or like study the communities. So in that
Yes.
way, my journey in life sciences really helped me, like at least for
Okay.
the base. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And and how you got connected from the Kalindi College to your the master's college that is in IP, I think, as far as
Yes.
I remember, you did masters
Yes.
from biodiversity and conservation or
Yes.
ecology, biodiversity and conservation.
Biodiversity and
Yeah,
conservation. Yes, yes. So,
yeah.
yeah, so getting into Kalindi College was actually a very random decision. So I was
Mhm.
going, I actually was getting some colleges in North Campus, and I was like totally fresh, like fresh kid. At that time, I was not even like
Mhm.
outgoing. I would just sit at home and all. So I preferred that college because it was very close to my home. It's like very close. I'm like, okay, this is good. And during life sciences only, I got little bit interested in environment or those fields, but I
Mhm.
was really not sure. And then I came across this course in Indraprasth University, IP, Guru Gobind Singh
Mhm.
Indraprasth University, that they do have this course called Biodiversity and Conservation. And while I was learning about the course, I got to know they have many field visits for all the three
Mhm.
semesters. So fourth semester is
Mhm.
dissertation, but first semesters is like you're going out in field for at least like 10 days
Mhm.
or something. So that caught me and like,
Mhm.
okay, this is interesting. So that's why I applied for it. I also applied for some courses in DU, but I was not really studying at that time much. So I'm glad
Okay.
that I got into IP because that was more closer to field work, and yeah, so that
Mhm.
is how I went to that. So
Yeah, things happen for good reason. And
yes.
it was your those were your field trips. You did one internship in Gujarat and one is Amity.
Okay, okay. So no. So field trips, like for first semester, our field was to look at the plant biodiversity in some high elevation area.
Hmm.
So we had
Hmm.
gone to Ranikhet in Uttarakhand. That was my first
Okay.
field trip in that course.
Okay.
It was like a whole of our batch would go along with the seniors. That time we were junior batch, and
Hmm.
that was first trip, which was really good. At that time, we did not know how to behave in field. We were like very fresh kids, like taking photos and all. And our supervisor, she was very annoyed, but at that time we understood it's like very like paying attention to plants, and we had to make herbariums, and so
Hmm.
that part was good. And after that, for second semester, we went to Jaipur as a whole batch. That was for understanding bird diversity, because at that time
Okay.
winter migrants used to come, like in those wetlands they usually come
Okay.
in Jaipur wetlands. So that was that. And for third semester, we had gone to Nainital. So by third semester, we were the seniors, and junior batch was with us. So juniors were there for plants, and we were there to
Okay.
interact communities and environment. So I that
Okay.
time I was looking at how like ecotourism, because Nainital is like full of tourists. So I was just assessing how the tourism is affecting that area. That was like really
Hmm.
basic. But my Gujarat trip
Hmm.
was, I think, after my second semester, there was like 2 months internship that was mandatory for our course. And I
Hmm.
had written to many organizations, and I got into this Gujarat Institute of Desert Ecology. And
Hmm.
that was like first field out of Delhi, like independent.
Okay.
My friend also was with me, like my batchmate. We both went together, and there I was looking at a human blue bull conflict in Bhuj and Kutch area.
Human what?
Nilgai. Nilgai. Blue bull.
Oh, okay.
Nilgai.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So
Okay.
that was like first interaction with like farmers, how they perceive
Hmm.
the menace, you can say menace, or you can say interactions with the
Hmm.
Nilgai in their fields. So that was quite interesting because we were actually again surveying across the Bhuj area and Kutch area to get their
Hmm.
opinion and perception. So that was for 2 months.
Okay.
I basically did questionnaire survey at that time,
Hmm.
and so that was first field. And then
Hmm.
that Amity one is my dissertation. So for the
Okay.
6 months dissertation in last semester, I
Mhm.
did for remote sensing. So I was actually looking at forest cover change in the state of Odisha over 2 decades. So like
Oh.
1996, then
Mhm.
2006 and
Mhm.
2016, how it has changed over the years. And then
Mhm.
I was actually looking at there was a case study also, like where I zoomed into Bhubaneswar city
Mhm.
and Cuttack city, how the
Mhm.
expansion of those cities are impacting the nearby forested areas. So that
Okay.
was the first independent project that I did. But during that time only, I realized this is not what I want to do. Yeah, because that was like I was um, part of Amity because my supervisor from was from Amity, but I
Mhm.
rarely used to go there because everything was like on my laptop. And she also
Okay.
suggested that you really don't need to travel so much every day, so you can work at home whenever you
Mhm.
get doubt or something, you can come. So it was mostly home, one room. I'm working on something, and it was trial and error because
Mhm.
in remote sensing, you don't know when you will get into some error, and then you have to repeat the
Mhm.
whole process again. So during the 6 months, I decided I don't want to be in the room, be like working in a lab
Mhm.
or something. So I want to explore. So yeah, that was the point, turning point, I would say.
Mhm. And during this time or before that, you have mentioned somewhere that one of your close friend took your interest in uh,
Yeah,
avian studies.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It was during this
So
time.
okay, yes, sir. So, during my master's program, we were
Mhm.
about, I think, 15 or 16 people in a batch. And
Mhm.
honestly, none of us had a clue or like how to go about it. You know, we are into
Mhm.
this course now, like apart from the theoretical lessons, what all should we do? And like at that time, we used to think only one person seems to be interested in this course, and that was that friend. So he was
Mhm.
already into photography. So he was interested in
Okay.
spiders and also birds. So we used to hang around with him and explore the area near IP, so Dwarka side
Mhm.
area. And that time we used to like look for the birds and all. And he was the main guide for us. So he would tell us where all the
Mhm.
which bird is that. So yeah. So his name is Kashish. So yeah.
Okay.
Then it
Oh.
started. Yeah.
Today I was attending Madhusri Mutke, if you know
Yeah.
about her defense,
Oh.
PhD defense, and she beautifully mentioned one of the quote from Rachel Carson, and it was something like, "It is more about how you feel about nature than you know it." So I think it's the common thing I have found among all wildlife biologists is the way they feel about nature around them. So
Yeah.
so that so you completed your master's, and
Yes.
after almost 1 year, you joined WII.
Yes, yes. So I took a gap of 1 year. I really don't remember what I was
Okay.
doing at that time. I was just exploring options, and
Mm-hmm.
yes, I was in touch with my supervisor of IP University, and through him
Mm-hmm.
only I got to know about the Wildlife Institute of India, like the
Okay.
opportunities here. So he actually
Okay.
suggested that maybe you can try there because I remember I definitely told him, sir, I don't want to continue remote sensing. I want to go out
Mm-hmm.
and I
Mm-hmm.
want to because I had learned about birds.
Mm-hmm.
I got a little bit interested in birds at that time. So I told him, ki, okay, I want to go and explore my like
Mm-hmm.
interest in birds. Yes, because
Mm-hmm.
again, coming back to that Delhi option, so while living there, there was no clue. Like, okay, in childhood we used to see sparrows and all, but there was not that inclination, no? Like that was
Mm-hmm.
not really the environment we were brought up. So it was all city
Mm-hmm.
life, and when I got to understand, well, oh, there is one more interesting world outside there, and it has completely changed my life. So after
Okay.
getting to know about birds, I still remember when I went back to Delhi after coming here in Dehradun. I'd gone to
Mm-hmm.
Delhi. My family is there, and I was walking with my mom. Like we had gone to a market, and my head was just looking up. And she was like, "What's wrong with you? Why can't you just walk straight?" It's like, "No, I don't know." So it's like now it has become a habit. So I'm glad. Yeah.
So, so Delhi was sort of a like a falcon coming out of Delhi and reaching to the WIA.
Yeah.
So how you selected this Amur Falcon? Because it was not Barnes Swallows what you worked for an initial time period, right? It
Yes.
was Amur
Yes.
Falcon. Yeah.
Yes. So, okay. So, when I came to Wildlife Institute, I knew
Hmm.
I want to work on birds. So, I approached Dr. Suresh here, who is the scientist here. And I
Hmm.
told him, ki, see, I am really fresh. I don't know where to start from, but
Hmm.
I want to work with birds. That's all I know. And he was
Okay.
impressed by my dissertation thesis. So, like, whatever I had done, it was good. I think at that time it was fine. So he said, okay, let me give you an opportunity. So he said,
Hmm.
ki, you can start working as an intern
Okay.
in my ongoing project. What the ongoing project was Amur Falcon project.
Okay.
And so I got really excited. Okay, that's really exciting because it's like a migratory bird, and he had already deployed some satellite transmitters on them. So
Hmm.
that data was there, keep from where they are coming and from where they are going. So for the Nagaland part, we had
Hmm.
all like they had already tagged the birds when I joined it.
Okay.
So at that time we were studying their diet. What are they eating during those stopover in Northeast India? So
Hmm.
yeah, so again for that, so because I had just came out of Delhi, and my
Okay.
family was very worried for me because I had never gone out before, like my home before. So they actually talked to him, and they was like, we know that she's interested in doing field work, but we would suggest that you don't send her like little, like maybe not that far." And his suggestion was, ki, "Okay, I will send her to only till Masuri, which is really close to Dehradun. So don't worry." And
Hmm.
the next month he's
Hmm.
telling me, ki, maybe you can go to Nagaland for Amul Falcon work. And I was really charged up and
Hmm.
excited. I was like, yeah, I have like there was one more researcher that by that time that was appointed for the project. His name is Alex. So he was going, and suddenly Dr. Suresh he suggested ki Amarjit, if you want to go, maybe you can also go. Because
Hmm.
it will help you learn more. So I was like, yes, why not? And at that time, my parents, it was like a shock for my parents and for my family. They're like, where are you going? Because again, for North Indians, the Northeast India is completely different lands, like a different country itself. So they were very worried, but I could manage to,
Convince
make
them.
them understand. Yes. So yeah. So that time I had gone first to Nagaland, and from there
Hmm.
only I received a call from my supervisor that we are going to Manipur to tag more birds. So maybe you can
Okay.
come down to Manipur. So then
Hmm.
I joined in Manipur where we again tagged. So that was
Okay.
my first experience in tagging Amur falcons at that time.
Okay.
And from there on I continued to be there up like I in between we had a discussion with Dr. Suresh, and I had gone to
Hmm.
Masuri to look for this bird barn swallow. So
Okay.
barn swallows are nesting there in the shops of
Okay.
Masuri and Kempty village, which is near to Kempty Falls. It's again like a tourist place.
Hmm.
So that time I had seen that nest for the first time. And I was
Okay.
very surprised. Oh, what is happening here? Because the nest was right inside the restaurant, and people were quite fine
Hmm.
with that. And we were just going, and we were asking them, "Oh, when do they come? When do they leave?" So, so that was very new to me. In Delhi,
Hmm.
you don't see such kind of interactions of wildlife
Yes. Yes.
with humans, and that too
Right.
very peaceful interactions. So yeah, so at that time I was like, okay, this seems to be interesting. So there
Hmm.
on, I started writing my PhD synopsis on Barnes Solos. So and
Okay.
I had many discussions with Dr. Suresh like how to go about it because nothing is
Hmm.
known of Barnes Solos from India.
Mhm.
We have many studies from outside of the country. So barn swallows have whole wide distribution. They are everywhere in the northern hemisphere where they breed,
Mhm.
and in winters they migrate to southern hemisphere, like countries of southern hemisphere. So
Okay.
they have like extensive. They have done extensive research on the species, but in India we know nothing. So where to start? Like it's like a fresh thing. So at that time I
Mhm.
understood there is a platform called eBird where people upload their checklist and the
Yes. Yes.
birds that they cite as areas. So that I took as a
Mhm.
backbone where
Okay.
to go and explore for barn swallows in the Himalayas. So if
Mhm.
within Uttarakhand, I decided some sites which seem to be having more concentrated locations like Nainital and Mussoorie area. And from there on, I started surveying for barn swallows. So 2019, I joined for
Mhm.
PhD, defending my
Mhm.
synopsis, PhD synopsis for barn swallows. And but I continue to work for the Amur Falcon work also, because that was the first thing I think I got more inclined to earlier. So
Mhm.
so it was like in summer months I am doing field work in the Himalayas, and when it is October and November, when Amur Falcons come to
Mhm.
Northeast India, I am there in Northeast India. So rest of the months I'm in Dehradun, but whatever months we have in between, I am out in field. That was it. So, but in 2019, I was also involved in my PhD coursework. So I could not
Mhm.
do much of the field work at that time for my PhD. So
Mhm.
yeah, in October, November again went back to Nagaland and Manipur to do more work on Amur
Mhm.
Falcons.
Mhm.
And yeah, so and 2020 came. That was the
COVID.
lockdown. Yeah.
Yeah.
uh,
So, be- uh, before we get inside
yes.
the barn swallow,
Yes.
because there are so many stories
Yeah.
around that,
Yeah, that's why I
I
just
will
took
just,
a
yeah.
pause. Like maybe you can ask. I don't know where am I going.
Yeah, because I know there are so many things actually
Yeah.
this conversation can go on, and
Yes.
definitely we'll come back to the barn swallow
Yes.
because
Yes.
I think that is comparatively more closer to you,
Hmm.
that migratory bird. But
Yes.
before that, I would just like to ask about your experience, what you had in Nagaland
Okay.
when for the first time you saw Amur falcons in the group when you were standing with Alex
Yeah.
in the evening time, and for
Yeah.
the how was that
So
experience?
you had read that article of ornithology.in.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
So yeah. So to start with, we both landed in Hakise. So it's in the Dimapur
Hmm.
district of
Hmm.
Nagaland. Yeah, for the first time in Dimapur, we were staying in the forest rest house. And by
Hmm.
5 in the evening, we both were surprised. Oh, it's dark already. And then it hit us. We are in Northeast, so it's dark. And
Hmm.
from there on, we went to Hakize, and it's like a remote village there. And
Hmm.
for like a shared auto.
Hmm.
So we were going by that, and the roads were really bad. So whole ride was like bumpy. And
Hmm.
anyway, we reached there, and so that site of Hakize is like a lower elevation. It's not like
Hmm.
mountainous. It's like a
Okay.
people do like paddy cultivation there. It's part of the
Hmm.
plains, and
Hmm.
so there we talked with people about Amur Falcons, and it was early October, and they were
Okay.
saying ki Amur Falcons are not yet here. Maybe they're there in lower
Okay.
numbers, but not like in great number
Hmm.
that you would expect. And
Hmm.
we both were new, and
Hmm.
whatever, like we did see some Amur Falcons flying around, and we're like, okay, yeah,
Hmm.
maybe we will see, maybe we not, because big, before to that we had only seen those pictures, sky full of falcons, only those
Yes. Yes.
photos. But at that time we were fine with that. And but there was this thing ki, maybe if like
Hmm.
we don't know if we will be able to see or not. So from Hakize we were traveling to other sites. So one was Pangti in Wokha district, and
Hmm.
one was in Yongim Chen, which is in Longlang district of Nagaland. So when we
Okay.
went to Pangti, So our experience in Pangti was not great in terms of the stay, or like people, like they were little different, because again it got into that, tourism impact. So people had that
Okay.
mentality. Apart from other part of the Nagaland, we felt this difference, but again it was fine. Then that it was that evening we both went, okay, let's go, and we have to collect the pellets of the falcons to understand the diet.
Mm-hmm.
So we were doing that, and at that time we just climbed the watchtower, which people, like forest department, had built to get a
Mm-hmm.
view of the Amur falcons, or just general view of the area. And
Mm-hmm.
we climbed and we were just talking ki, we don't see any Amur falcons, they're not here. What are they even going to come or not? And suddenly we see, I think we heard the call first, and there was a creak, 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 creak,
Mm-hmm.
some call is coming. And like, what is
Mm-hmm.
happening? And then suddenly one batch of Amur falcon, it came from nowhere. They were just there.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, oh, they're there. And we was like really excited to see them. Ki, oh, they're finally in a batch. But still, we did not know like what is going to happen next. We were just happy for that batch. And suddenly more and more batches started to come, hundreds of them. And like it
Mm-hmm.
was like again the term that I often use, the sky full of falcons. And because the watchtower was covered from the top, we were like looking out from the like the opening, and like, where are the falcons? And it's like everywhere they were just there. They were like, and the only thing you could hear was their call, creak, creak,
Mm-hmm.
creak, 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 and the falcons are there, and the sun is setting, so it was getting a little dark, and they're just circling around, and in a second vanished. So they just
Oh.
like left, and we're like, what happened? That was
Mm-hmm.
so that was like a sight that we can never forget. That it was great. And
Mm-hmm.
subsequent that, I had then like more amazing sights of falcons in Manipur. So that
Okay.
was the only time that I was in Nagaland. But for later on years, I was working in Manipur. So I had an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to get the sight of Amur falcons there, which was better than what we had seen in Pangti. But still, we cannot forget the Pangti visuals
First,
that we have seen.
first, first time is always memorable.
Yes.
So, for Amur Falcons, I think you studied three sites. That is Manipur, Assam, and
So,
Nagaland, right?
so Amur Falcons in Nagaland, there were three sites. Manipur, there were two sites, and
Mm-hmm.
then in Assam, there was one more site.
Yeah. And in that paper, I was reading
Yeah.
so many number of pellets, thousands and thousands of pellets you have collected.
Yes.
So, how you collect? You go to that particular site and you collect that, and how
Yeah.
you recognize, for that matter, this
Oh,
is
okay.
from Amur Falcons.
Okay. So the diet work had started before I and Alex had joined. It was in
Okay.
2017. So there was
Okay.
one more researcher, Devin Mehta, which is the co-author of that paper. So he
Mm-hmm.
he had started that work with Dr. Suresh. So he was traveling
Mm-hmm.
to different sites. And so the thing about
Mm-hmm.
Palace is, that there is one forested area where Amur
Mm-hmm.
falcons are roosting. They are there in the night time, and
Mm-hmm.
by early morning they would just go off and feed to other areas. They'll feed in another area, and by evening they
Mm-hmm.
will come back.
Okay.
So for pellet collection, we would go early in the morning when the Amul falcons had just left, because we don't want to disturb the sleeping falcons. So we cannot go like
Mm-hmm.
when it is still dark, and we
Okay.
also want to collect fresh pellets. So for
Okay.
that, we have to go just after the falcons would leave the roost
Okay.
colony. So it's
Oh.
like all of them are roosting in one patch of forest. So when
Okay.
they leave, you go there, you look under the tree, and you would find about
Mm-hmm.
this size of a pellet. It's full of,
Mm-hmm.
it looks black, but you can actually see the insect body parts in it. So it's
Oh.
like beetles are easily visible because they're like shiny, shiny. You can see heads of
Mm-hmm.
termites. So
Yeah.
that was it, and they were all consistent. This size. So
Mm-hmm.
pellets is actually like for the viewers, I just explain. So the pellets that we
Mhm.
are collecting are actually regurgitate. So raptors, usually
Oh.
owls and falcons, apart from the fecal matter, they also regurgitate. So whenever they are hunting on a prey, so it constitutes of bones and feathers
Mhm.
and hard body parts. In the case of insects, it's usually
Mhm.
the head or the wing portion. So they vomit
Mhm.
it out. That is what
Okay.
we call it regurgitate. So
Okay.
it's actually a ball of a vomit
Mhm.
that we are collecting for the for getting and for understanding their diet.
Yes.
So it was not really difficult to ID the pellets because they all look alike, and we know the falcons are
Mhm.
roosting there. So with the help of local people, we could easily find the pellets. But the task is
Mhm.
to get into the forest itself because it's really dense. And for some sites like
Okay.
Hakse, it was easy because it's like
Okay.
uh, a tea plantation. So it's quite
Mhm.
open. There is no understory. But for
Mhm.
Pangti and for Yongin there were like
Mhm.
bamboos and other plantations, and there were like quite a
Mhm.
good amount of understory. So the local people
Okay.
would come with us, and they would just like using their dao, they would make paths
Mhm.
for us, and then we would
Mhm.
enter and collect get the pellets. So for pellet
Oh.
collection, I was there in one of the season, but most of the pellet collection was done like in one season. It was from Devan, and for the next
Mhm.
seasons, it was Alex did the job of
Okay.
collecting the pellets. Yeah,
Mhm.
and also examining their content in the lab.
It sounds so fascinating going to the forest
Yeah.
and collecting it, but definitely it must be coming with some of the problematic situations, getting there, getting
Yes.
inside the forest and collecting. I was reading that it is correlated with the termites, population of
Yeah.
termites, because
Yeah.
there are more than
Yes.
80% it was
Yes.
termite species.
Yeah.
So like this Amur falcons are they are definitely migratory. So where they actually reside,
Okay.
like
So
their permanent home.
yes. So, okay. So, for migratory birds, I won't say they have a permanent home because they're like
Okay.
they love their freedom. So for Amur falcons, they nest in Mongolia or northern China. That is
Oh,
where they breed. Yes. And
okay.
since we also studied their migration, so I would explain also how do we know about their breeding and non-breeding
Okay.
sites. So they are
Okay.
there in China and northern China and Mongolia areas in like a steppe landscape. It's like open
Okay.
area, like
Hmm.
okay, and they have like it's like open area, but few trees here and there, like sparse trees are there. That is where they build their nest. And one
Okay.
more interesting thing about falcons is that they don't build their own nest. So they
Oh.
time their arrival in the breeding sites when the magpies have just finished with their nesting.
Oh. Oh.
So we have a magpie there, and when they finish the nesting, the nest would remain intact in the nest, and the Amur
Hmm.
falcons will lay eggs in those nests.
Okay.
So it's
And
from you would say April to August, July,
okay.
the breeding season. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, that's interesting to know. And
yes, and
their babies will go back like turtles
so their
from
so
where the
Amur
parents came.
falcons and their babies they fly together, and we know that
Okay.
because we see adults as well as young birds in Northeast India. So we see of
Okay.
both of them. Like we don't see just young birds or just adults. We see combination of
Okay.
adults, male, females, as well as juveniles, the newly hatched ones.
Okay.
So it's like
Oh.
they all travel together. So from
Okay.
Northeast India, after finishing their nesting in
Hmm.
August, September, they start to move down.
Hmm.
And so they
Okay.
take this from China, Mongolia, they're coming down, and they then cut across the Myanmar side and enter
Okay.
into Northeast India from Nagaland, Manipur
Okay.
hills, those Naga hills that are coming down. So they
Hmm.
enter into the Northeast India from that route. And
Okay.
once they are here, then we saw like interesting thing is that they show high uh, fidelity, or high, they show they're very attracted to their previous sites, so they will go
Oh.
back to those sites where they are stopping over in previous years also. For
Mhm.
example, the bird that we had caught, that we had put on the satellite
Right.
transmitter, 1 year it was in the same, like for example, it was in Pangti. So next year also it would go to Pangti, not to other stopover sites.
Oh.
So that was
Wow.
very interesting to observe. And yeah, so again, when Amur falcons are in Northeast India, they would disperse, and they would
Okay.
go. Some would go to sites in Manipur, some would go to sites in Nagaland, and some would go to sites in
Okay.
Assam. So earlier we
Okay.
used to think how many of them are there, because if you are in one side and you're seeing millions and millions of birds, and
Mhm.
initially my supervisor and we also used to think maybe whole population is here, and then they will go to different
Mhm.
side after some days,
Okay.
and in that side people would see again these many numbers. But what happened is, when we are in one side, we're calling in the other side, and they're saying we are seeing equal numbers. So it's like
Okay.
there are a lot. So it's like we call it funneling. So whole of
Okay.
the population of Amur falcons are funneling in the Northeast India, and they're stopping over.
Okay.
So that make it very important for the sites to be conserved and protected, because whole population is here. And interesting part is like the for the juveniles, for the young bird, it is their first journey. It's their first time in
Yes. Yes.
Northeast India. So yeah,
Oh.
so they come from that. And
Okay.
yeah, so do you want me
And
to tell
and
about termites, or
yes.
I think you can?
Yeah. I just want to ask one more. How long they live? This Amur falcon. What is their life age?
Okay, so for understanding the age of the birds, it is important to ring the birds when they are young, or when they are like first
Okay.
years, juvenile birds, when they're just
Okay.
hatched. And then
Okay.
you can monitor the birds across seasons and see for how many years they're coming. If they come to the same nest, then you can see
Mhm.
what is the age. So for Amur falcons, it's generally, I think it is 8 years, 7, 8 years.
Oh.
And
And
so
in what
we know example of one
in
bird which is like longleg, the female that we had tagged. So longleg
oh.
consecutively came back to Northeast India, I think for 4 years, and she was an
Whoa.
adult when she was tagged. So obviously she would
Okay.
be like at least 2 years or 3 years old. So that was there, and then
Wow.
it came again for 4 years, and after that it
Mhm.
stopped transmitting the location. She stopped
Oh.
transmitting. So I guess
You
it's like 7 or 8 years.
felt,
Yeah,
did you all feel bad?
yeah, we
No
did.
more.
But like more from of feeling bad, we were like very happy of that bird. Apart from all other
Okay.
birds, she was like very, and I think strong, because she has another story to tell. Because of her
Uh,
data, we could actually understand the connect of wind and cyclones happening in the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, how they're connected and how our
wow.
falcons are flying. So that was like a very,
Wow.
that's yeah.
It's all it, it's all mystery, and that's what fascinates,
Yes.
I think, for all the wildlife
Yeah.
biologists.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we can come to barn swallows.
Okay.
So you were there. You were telling you got registered for
Mm.
PhD, and you started. So half the time you were doing the barn swallow work.
Yes.
And what were your sites? Field
So it
sites
my
for barn swallow?
initial, yeah, for initial work, because as I mentioned in 2019 my PhD coursework also started. So I was busy in the
Okay.
breeding season. So the breeding season of barn swallows is from March till July. This is the time
Okay.
when they are here in the mountains, the summer months.
Okay.
So they are also
Okay.
migratory birds, and they come here in summer. So
Okay.
February, March was my PhD coursework. So I at that
Okay.
time I was also not having any funds, because it's a common species. So like we still
Okay.
need to raise awareness of people to give us funds for understanding common
Yeah.
species. But anyway, So
Okay.
I was just visiting Masuri, that site, and coming back to Dehradun.
Mhm.
So it was like to and fro. So that was what I was doing because I was constrained by funds. And
Mhm.
so that is what I did for the first year of my PhD, like moving between these sites. And I made few
Mhm.
visits to Nainital, which was my other site. So
Okay.
yeah, so in 2020, I was to repeat the same, but COVID happened, and
Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
and for and it so happened that the lockdown started in March, end of March, and it
Mhm.
continued until July, and it completely overlapped with the field season of Banswalos.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I missed the entire season for that. I was really
Okay.
sad because that was like just
Mhm.
the initial point of my PhD. And it's like when you
Mhm.
have to collect data, it's usually this is
Mhm.
how wildlife, like science people plan their PhD. First 3 or 4 years in collecting data, and then you have the data, you write your thesis. And
Mhm.
my first years are
Yes.
just I'm losing it to like some uncertain
COVID.
disease that has just landed to us. So, and one more part was I was curious because
Mhm.
barn swallow they don't nest in forest. I don't go to forest
Yeah.
to collect their data. So they are very we call them human
Mhm.
commensal. So it's like
Mhm.
they stay near humans and they
Mhm.
nest their own like they build their own nest
Mhm.
inside human buildings like shops or houses, and that was
Mhm.
one of the reasons that I still could not travel because anyway I have to interact with multiple
Yeah.
people to get
Yeah.
data. That was restricted. And what I was curious, like for example, in Kempty, in Masuri side, most of the nests
Mhm.
were in shops. So I was
Okay.
thinking, ki, what is happening to barn swallows if the shops are
Mhm.
closed? Then where
Close.
are
Yeah.
they nesting? Like that is
Yeah.
one more question. So, but I was hesitant to call people because for them it's like a very, for everybody it was a very bad phase of COVID. So I could not just
Yeah.
ask them how are the birds. So they.
Mhm.
That's very weird. So, so
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's 2020 lost, 2021 also half of it was lost because again lockdown
Mhm.
happened at the same time, and that was not
Mhm.
expected. But I could still get some idea from local people what is the whole story. Even if I could not get, some part of my PhD, one of the objective is to collect nesting data. So I have to make
Okay.
frequent visits to the nest and see the status, whether there are
Mhm.
eggs or there are chicks or whether they have fledged, to
Mhm.
success of the nest for different sites.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
missed on that for 2 years. But then 2022, which was the best year
Mhm.
in terms of collecting data.
Mhm.
So
Restrictions lifted, so you could
restrictions left.
finally.
And I would say in that year when I was doing intensive field work, so I was traveling whole of Uttarakhand. I went to
Mhm.
Kashmir, looked at Banswalos and people, their interaction,
Yes. Yes.
and went to North
Yeah.
Bengal, went to Manipur, which is again one more interesting site for Banswalos. So then only I realized, like the true realization came at that time. Ki, oh, this is the bird I want to work on. That is like this.
And,
Yeah.
and I think I lost in between. I got some spam call.
Oh.
But anyways, as you were mentioning the shops and barn swallow, that
Mm.
reminded me another beautiful story you have written, a small piece of work,
Mm. Yeah.
where you witnessed the first flight of baby barn swallow.
Yes.
So how was that experience?
Okay. So I was in my field site here in Kempty, and
Okay.
the owners of those shop, they were very nice people.
Mhm.
So the daughter
Okay.
of that uncle was actually helping me collect data for that area. She was very curious, and she
Okay.
also, yeah,
Mhm.
she was looking for some opportunities. So I was like, why not? It's like very good to have some local person also. So I was just sitting in the shop and I was chit chatting because it's like important part of my work because I cannot
Mhm.
ignore
Mhm.
humans while looking at Barcelonas. So I was just chatting with them and they had given me tea and it was early morning. And I was looking at how the young birds are behaving because they were almost about to fly away. So they were like
Mhm.
grown enough that I know ki they are going to soon leave the nest. And suddenly I
Okay.
observed, so this is a very small shop, corner, there is one nest where the birds are there. And suddenly the adults are singing, they're like not singing, but some different call, not the
Call, yeah.
usual call, but the different call. And it
Mm,
looked like they're forcing their young ones to do something, like, get out of the nest, get out
okay.
of the nest. It's like
Mm-hmm.
that. It's
Mm-hmm.
enough.
Okay.
You now have to face the world. so
Yeah.
so what they actually were poking them, get out, get out. And
Mm-hmm.
there were four chicks in the nest, and three of them were brave enough to, to
Mm-hmm.
take their first flight. So they just took the
First
flight,
flight.
and they were little scared. So
Mm-hmm.
from the nest, they could just come to the fan, and they landed on the fan blade.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
there the birds sat, like, or perched
Mm-hmm.
on the fan.
Yeah.
And they're
Yes.
like,
Yes.
oh, this much is enough for me. I am tired, or I am scared.
Okay.
I don't want to fly more.
Mm-hmm.
And the male
Mm-hmm.
barn swallow was again after it. Like, go, like, fly, fly. Why are you not flying? It's like that. And after, like, some push, that bird managed,
Mm-hmm.
and it flew out of the shop, flew not high, but like
Mm-hmm.
lower. And I'm glad that it was early morning because it's very tourist place. So you see
Mm-hmm.
a rush of vehicles going around. But since
Mm-hmm.
it was early morning, the bird could take a safe small flight, and it
Mm-hmm.
like, circled around and
Mm-hmm.
came back inside the shop. And
Okay.
that was
Nice.
like first flight of a bird. And there was one more small chick in the nest. It was so scared. It did not budge. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, I am not going to fly today. This is not my day. So yeah, that was the story. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have encapsulated that quite nicely. Actually, that reminded me the book written by this lady Rachel Carson,
Yeah.
"The Sea Around Us."
Mhm.
So, and that was pretty good description you have given. Like I could imagine every small thing what you have written in that.
Yeah.
And it was during this visit that you met that local person named Jagat Singh that he marked with nail polish.
Okay, okay.
Where
Yeah, so this was in 2022 when I was visiting all the sites in Uttarakhand. So what I was trying
okay.
to do is I was doing this road trip, and
Mm-hmm.
like, so I actually mapped out some routes. So I was in Nainital at that
Mm-hmm.
time, and what my
Mm-hmm.
plan was to, from Nainital I would take certain road till some higher
Mm-hmm.
elevation, and in between whatever
Mm-hmm.
town or village I would see, I would just go and ask people
Mm-hmm.
whether do they have barn swallows or not, because I wanted to see the
Okay.
the elevational limits and what restrict them
Okay.
for the nesting. So, for example, if they're in
Mm-hmm.
Masuri, why they're not there in Dehradun? So Dehradun is little lower than
Okay.
Masuri, and if they are in
Okay.
Nainital, why they are not there higher up in Munshari, which is about
Okay.
3,000-meter elevation. It's very cold at that side.
Okay.
So this is what I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to do. So I was just exploring, and one of the route, one like for one of the field trips, it was through Champawat side. So
Mm-hmm.
from Nainital,
Mm-hmm.
like I went to Champawat, Loha Ghat, all that area. And in Champawat district
Mm-hmm.
only, that Jagat Singh I met, that person. So, so,
Mm-hmm.
for all of the stories that I could manage to collect, it's like sometimes you get this hesitation whether you should take that much of effort or just leave. Like
Mm-hmm.
these were the thoughts that would just rush in when you are in rush already, when you
Push
want
it.
to collect
Mm-hmm.
data of multiple sites.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like early morning. No, this was around 10 or 11 in the morning that we reached
Okay.
this village. Me and my
Mm-hmm.
assistant who was helping me, and we both
Mm-hmm.
discussed ki from the higher side of the mountain,
Mm-hmm.
could see there is a
Mm-hmm.
river valley and
Okay.
open village. So we could see the village. And I was telling
Mm-hmm.
him, Bhaiya, what should you think? Should we go down and see? Because it's quite like elevationally we are higher up. But if we go
Mm-hmm.
down in the valley, it's quite hot. So whether barn swallows would be there or not, should we go and explore? So he said, okay, ma'am, let's
Mm-hmm.
go. Yeah. So we went, and we did not look for
Mm-hmm.
the right road, and we went through a shortcut. So for the,
Okay.
for going down, it was easy, but for coming back, it was very challenging. But anyway, we went
Mm-hmm.
down and we realized it was really hot. And I just saw some shops that were open. Two, three shops were open, and
Mm-hmm.
I asked them whether you see this nest or not. So in one shop, there was a nest. So it was a very small village, and the that
Mhm.
village was at 400 or 400, 500-meter elevation. And usually we don't see barn swallows nesting at that elevation. It's quite hot
Mhm.
for barn swallows to nest at this elevation. So
Okay.
I asked them to this, like, yeah, we have one nest, and I could see, but I could
Mhm.
see other swallow, red drum swallow, which is quite common in lower elevations also. So that was also there.
Mhm.
So exploring. So it was really hot, and my
Mhm.
assistant also, he was saying ki we can maybe go back. Then I saw one bridge that for
Mhm.
crossing from one village to another, there was a bridge, and we could cross it and go to the other side. So I just told them, let us go there and see what's there. We know the story of
Mhm.
this side. Just we'll go there, and we just crossed, and that shop was
Mhm.
just after the crossing of the bridge. That was the only shop that was open. And I just entered
Okay.
and was like, hello, uncle, do you see this bird? And I was like, he
Mhm.
showed me the nest, but that
Mhm.
time it was not active. So birds were not there. So, but that person was very interesting. So he told me, ki, oh, I am very curious about these birds. They are very friendly to me. Whenever I'm
Mhm.
sitting, they would just come and sit on my shoulder. And whenever I'm
Mhm.
like doing something on the counter, they would come and look at me. It's like I talk to them and all. It's like, oh, that's so nice.
Oh.
And then he
Mhm.
said, ki once I did something, I was curious ki whether these birds are coming like every year. Are these same birds that are coming to the nest here, or they are different?
Mhm.
So what I did, I
Okay.
used nail polish, nail paint, and I like
Mhm.
painted their toe to see if they're coming
Okay.
back or not. And he's like, and like quite innocently, he said, but it did not work because they were collecting mud from the water and it really went off. And I was really, I felt like it was really hot, and I was
Uh-huh.
like whether we will find nest or not. But that person again charged me up. It's like it was so nice to meet
Mhm.
him. It was like a quick bout of energy you get
Mhm.
from somebody, and
Yes.
some very interesting
Yes.
information. So I told him, see, we are doing science from our side. Like we do
Mhm.
put rings on the birds to see whether they're coming back or
Mhm.
not. But you are doing your science at home without even
Yeah.
knowing. So
Yeah.
that is good. And his father was also there, and he actually gave me his blessing. He's like, whenever you submit your PhD, please come here and show me your thesis. I'm like, okay.
Whoa.
So that was good.
Yeah, some people are really sweet.
Yeah.
This, so this was the first. Before that, as you just mentioned, like he was mentioning because they collect mud and water. I just read their nest is made up of mud.
Yes.
So how these birds collect mud and which mud they collect? Like from anywhere they go and collect and put there?
Yeah. So since they are nesting near to humans, like closer to
Hmm.
humans, and so what they do is if they are finding some wet mud, so usually again it's like in summer months you have like quick shower of rain. Maybe
Hmm.
in
Yes.
March or April you see that, and taking benefit from that, the local area, the mud gets wet, and from there on the
Hmm.
bird could go and collect the mud. And sometimes it's like a kacha road of a village, so there again the
Okay.
mud pool you will get, or if they're near
Yes.
to
Yes.
some water body, so they would go to collect the
Hmm.
mud from there. So I have seen them collecting, like here is the shop, and just outside
Hmm.
there is a pool of mud because of the rain. So they would just go there and
Okay.
pick up the mud and come back to the nest. So
Wow.
they use mud as well as dry grass. So they like weave
Okay.
the grass and mud together, mud balls. They make the mud into a ball, like from their beak. So they shape it like a ball and use the grass
Hmm.
as a weave thing. And then they
Oh,
just,
yeah.
so at some places people call them gunthni also because they're like
Oh,
gunthna. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Wow. And we consider humans as most intelligent ones.
Oh,
And
that's not true.
so, these are also migratory birds.
Yes.
From where they actually originate, like the Amur you told, they
Yeah.
might be coming from Mongolia and
Yes.
North China. From where these
Yeah.
birds come?
So at some of the sites, no, here at the breeding grounds, people would tell them कि अरे हम इनको बोलते हैं कि विदेशी चिड़िया है. They are not from here. And
Oh.
then we tell them like, oh no, they are nesting here, so this is their home. So you have to protect their home. So yeah, so like this was not planned for my PhD because for
Mhm.
using satellite transmitters, you really need good amount of fund to understand from where these birds are
Mhm.
coming from. But I have just
Mhm.
started tagging them, so I could get some funds
Okay.
for putting tags on barn swallows through
Okay.
crowdsource funding. And I could this
Oh.
year only I tagged about 15 birds in Masuri area. And so
Okay.
for barn swallows, they are very small birds. So 15, 16,
Mhm.
17 gram is the weight, average weight. So you cannot
Oh.
really use heavy satellite transmitters which have batteries to store the data. No. So for
Okay.
barn swallows, we have different tags called geolocators. It actually collects the
Mhm.
amount of sunlight whenever they are flying. So the sunlight
Okay.
would be stored, and it
Mhm.
would be just there. So I cannot,
Okay.
get the data actively. I have to wait next year for the birds to come back to the same nest, and then
Oh.
take the tag out and get the data. So I am waiting for next year
Okay.
to come when I could know where the barn swallows are going in winters. So generally,
Okay.
what is believed through eBird data also, like from observations of
Mhm.
birders. So barn swallows, when they're breeding in the Himalaya, they are not there in southern India. It's totally absent.
Okay.
So in winters, they migrate down to southern India. So what I am
Oh.
suspecting, some of the populations which are breeding in the central part of the Himalaya, like Uttarakhand, Nepal, or North Bengal, they are going to southern India. But Kashmir
Mhm.
populations, which are quite different from rest of the populations, like I had captured the
Okay.
birds and took the measurements and also collected the blood samples. So they are different
Mhm.
from Uttarakhand and Manipur and other birds.
Okay.
So Kashmir
Okay.
birds are most likely going to Africa. That's what we believe. Yeah.
Oh. Africa.
Yeah. So these birds also do long
Oh.
distance migration. So barn swallows, which are breeding in the European countries, every year they go down
Mhm.
to southern Africa or
Okay.
to winter. And similarly,
Okay.
birds of North America, they go to South America. So
Okay.
from
So
India, we
these
roam
barn
down.
swallows,
Yeah.
as you are expecting South Africa, like they go through that European route, or definitely not
Yes,
the crossing the sea, right?
yeah. So that's really interesting because we actually have observations of them in the months of their movement. So
Mhm.
lot many barn swallows gather in Gujarat coast, in the western coast.
Okay.
So and
Okay.
after that they disappear. They don't stay there for winters. So if they are
Okay.
there, they might be crossing the Arabian Sea and going to Africa.
Wow.
Yeah. And
That's a
like this is
long,
again.
long distance
Yes, so this is again connected
for a,
with the Amur Falcon story
yeah.
because Amur Falcons also
Yeah.
do the non-stop migration to Africa. And from our
Okay.
study, we could find that birds, Amur Falcons are they're very smart birds. Like we
Okay.
see, okay, they're just flying across non-stop,
Mhm.
but they're actually waiting at the western coast of India for the right winds
Mhm.
to come. And
Mhm.
so with the wind currents, they just get into those currents and land in Africa. So we
Oh.
actually had understood like the how the wind intensity was at that time when the Amurs were flying, and wind
Oh.
direction. So it is all in the same direction. So that is, I believe, for
Nice.
barn swallows and for other migratory birds also, because it's quite a like distance to fly, and especially for a small bird.
Yeah. And yeah, you were telling how much? 15 grams.
Yeah, average is 15 to 17 grams. Yeah.
Wow. Recently, I was actually looking through scientist Anusha. She's in
Hmm.
TIFR.
Yeah.
Most probably this month I might be having another conversation with her as well.
Okay.
So she has worked on this bioenergetics and all,
Mm-hmm.
how they use energy in different way
Okay.
for different purpose. So
Yeah.
that is such a fascinating thing. If they are crossing the whole
Yes.
Arabian Sea and reaching
Yes.
to Africa, just as
Yeah.
this small bird, salute to them.
Yeah.
So the, so the, this was your experience there at this place,
Yeah.
but you have shared some of more experience when you visited site in Kashmir.
Yes.
And I was very fascinated while I was reading your story. What I think it that's basically Baramulla.
Yes.
That
Yes.
story is
Baramulla.
uh,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
where you found they have given one home. They have
Homes.
given
Yeah.
gave up their home
Yes.
just because these barn swallows are coming in bulk.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, so I am writing one story for whole of the Himalaya people, but this was like
Hmm.
one part of it from Kashmir. So this is like when I had visited. So in many of these villages, we see,
Hmm.
for example, in Uttarakhand, in one shop, I would see one nest or two nests. Maximum, depending on
Hmm.
the shop size, it would go up to four nests or something. Active, like within one
Hmm.
shop, there would be four pairs of banswara that would be nesting. But in
Hmm.
Kashmir or in Manipur, there is one more side in Manipur, but that's a different story.
Hmm.
But in Kashmir, I
Hmm.
found that if the space is there, if the area is good, then you would see more number of barn swallows together in one particular nesting area. So in
Okay.
that,
Okay.
we had gone. That was our last day of capturing the barn swallows for the field trip, and I
Okay.
was getting blood samples from these birds because I wanted to see how different they are from other birds that are breeding in Uttarakhand or Himachal
Hmm.
or North Bengal. So I that was the last day, and we were like, "Okay, we still need some number
Hmm.
of barn swallows to catch." And we
Hmm.
landed up with the help of the forest department. We reached this
Hmm.
area, this village in Baramulla district of Kashmir, and
Hmm.
this was
Hmm.
just near Vular Lake. No? So the
Hmm.
thing was, this is the Vular Lake, like, and just in front of that, there are those Haramuk mountains are there. We could see those mountains. Then vast Vular Lake,
Hmm.
and then right next to
Hmm.
the lake there were some housing. Like local people were
Hmm.
staying in some of the houses, and they're mostly employed in some lake work or fishing or something. And
Hmm.
we could see some bansers flying around, and we were happy. Oh, now we have some birds here.
Hmm.
And then the
Hmm.
local people took us to this house, and we, as we were climbing up, as it was a peak of breeding season, so from the window of that particular house, we could see many banswaras are coming out and going in because they have to
Hmm.
feed their young ones, so yeah, adult
Yeah.
birds are just flying across, and that is
Hmm.
really like nice to see. Okay, we have birds here. We were like hopeful. And then as we climbed up the stairs and we entered
Hmm.
the room, it was quite dark, and the ladies were like removing the husk from their what,
Hmm.
paddy, or like the rice.
Hmm.
They were doing that and
Yeah.
storing that. It was like a storage room, and
Hmm.
above them is chaos, like clank, clank. And in all the
Hmm.
edges of the house, there was a ledge
Hmm.
also because it was a wooden house, and
Hmm.
barn swallows had built their nest. In every nest
Hmm.
there was one different story. There were like some two chicks, there were eggs, some the chicks were about to fly, so all of the adults
Hmm.
were busy in feeding their chicks. And
Okay.
so we did our work. We caught the birds, put on the rings, took blood samples. And as we
Hmm.
were talking to that person of the house, see,
Hmm.
ki, where do you live? I was like, ki, oh, this is like quite a big house. Where is your family
Hmm.
living? He said, just next to this, we had built one more hut like
Hmm.
house for us because
Hmm.
slowly the Banswalas were so high in number that we thought ki
Hmm.
we won't be able to live here anymore. Let us just
Hmm.
keep this place for them, and we shifted to next building. They just built one more hut there. So that was his story. Yeah,
Yeah, that
and that,
that was I was
yeah,
completely amazed to just for the
yes,
birds they gave up
yeah.
their home and they built another one. That was
Exactly.
quite fascinating.
Because
Yeah.
such kind of stories I've heard from all across the sites, so wherever I have visited,
Oh,
and that has like really amazed me. And I am coming from Delhi. I don't see people
yeah.
doing such kind
True,
of
true.
things.
I'm from the same place.
Okay, yeah. So that was like very
Hmm.
different for me, and these are the
Yeah.
stories that I keep
True.
on telling my family. Also, listen to me. I brought some new story to tell.
True. I am afraid this Instagram live may get
Yeah.
disconnected. Usually, sometime after 1 hour, it does. So I hope that doesn't happen. So I'll just proceed. I have some one or two question as you were telling. You collect the blood sample. Blood sample for what?
Okay,
Like what
so
kind of
yeah,
analysis you do?
so part of my PhD is also to know how these populations are different from each other. So we see,
Okay.
I did this survey to understand the distribution of barn swallows, breeding distribution across the Himalaya.
Mm-hmm.
So they are there in
Mm-hmm.
Kashmir, then they are
Mm-hmm.
in Himachal for like in certain elevation belt, then they are in
Mm-hmm.
Uttarakhand and Nepal, of course, they are there, but I could not do much survey there. And then North Bengal and Sikkim, they are there. And that's where the
Mm-hmm.
limit ends. After that, we don't see them in
Okay.
Arunachal or Northeast India.
Okay.
But one interesting
Okay.
site that we have in Northeast India is Imphal Valley in Manipur. So Imphal is the capital
Okay.
city of the Manipur. So there, Imphal birds are nesting, and it's quite like
Okay.
you see whole of the Himalaya. You talk about Himalaya, it's like high elevation. But I'm talking about
Okay.
Imphal, which is just 700, 750 meter. It's just like Dehradun. It's
Okay.
the valley. And so
Okay.
Imphal is at the center of Manipur. And
Mm-hmm.
as you go towards the edge of the valley, you see mountains are there circling the valley. So barn swallows are not
Okay.
in the mountains, they are there in the valley only.
Okay.
And there,
Oh.
barn swallows are not migratory also. They are resident. They are there throughout the year.
Okay.
And interestingly,
Okay.
they stay in close to their nest in winters also. They don't leave the nest.
Oh.
So, so as we see, there are different set of populations that are there across
Mhm.
this range. And certainly, Manipur birds are different because they are not migratory. They are very far away from whole of the nesting distribution, right? So
Mhm.
what I want to do is what I want to observe how like whether Kashmir birds are different from Uttarakhand birds, and if they're different, how much?
Okay.
Because we suspect that there are
Mhm.
different subspecies of barn swallows in India.
Okay.
So I also want to look at the subspecies distribution. So if the Kashmir
Mhm.
population are of which subspecies and Uttarakhand are of
Mhm.
which subspecies and Manipur are of which subspecies,
Mhm.
and also when did they actually colonize the Himalayan mountain range? Because apart from other
Oh.
sites, Himalaya is quite relatively recent, right? And even
Oh.
people getting into the Himalayas is recent phenomena. When you talk about the
Oh.
whole of the human
Yes.
angle, it's
Yes.
recent.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
when barn swallows are there everywhere outside
Mhm.
India, so when did they actually came
Mhm.
into India and started nesting in the Himalaya? So that is
Okay.
why I am collecting their blood samples to understand their genetics part of it and how they
Okay.
are
So
dealing with other
I-
populations.
so I'll
Yeah.
keep an eye on your website to see that
Yes.
paper coming in.
Yes. Yes.
What are the
Yeah.
outcomes of that study?
Yes.
And I always wanted to ask someone who study this
Mm.
birds, what do you write in that ring? Or is it just a colorful ring?
Okay. Wow. So we don't write anything in that ring. So we have two set of
Okay.
rings. So one ring
Okay.
is a metal ring, which whenever you're
Okay.
catching a bird and you want to ring a bird, you put that metal
Hmm.
ring. Because the
Hmm.
metal ring
Okay.
has unique ID or code. So
Ah,
for India
that
now,
code.
yeah, yeah. So for
Uh-huh.
India,
Yes, yes.
BNHS is the authority that is doing the ringing part. Like they are
Okay.
manufacturing the rings. Okay. And so
Okay.
in those rings, it is mentioned certain code and where it is
Okay.
built. For example, if it is in India, so it would be
Hmm.
IN India, no, and the rest of the code.
Okay.
So
Okay.
for different birds, we have different sizes of ring. For example, Amur falcons, I would use different ring, and for barn swallows, I would use different ring
Hmm.
because the size of
Okay.
the tarsus, leg, is quite small for barn
Hmm.
swallows or sparrow,
Yes,
you,
yes.
you can say.
Yeah.
So that particular size is there, and the unique code is
Hmm.
there. So in my notes, I would
Hmm.
write that this particular code was put in
Hmm.
to this bird, and that is my
Hmm.
record. And if you see
Oh.
that bird in somewhere, like somewhere
Hmm.
else, you are catching a bird and you saw that bird and you note that code and you know that this is India, so you would contact the manufacturing authority and they would tell you this was bought by Wildlife Institute of India. And then we will know, ki, okay,
Okay.
this was the I was the person who actually ringed that bird. And I would also know where my
Okay.
bird has gone. So through you. That is
Okay.
the purpose for the
Okay. Okay.
metal ring, which is therefore which is very important if you are ringing a bird. But the color ring part is if you want to observe, nesting ecology. So there is a
Mm-hmm.
nest. I put one
Mm-hmm.
color ring to female and one to the male, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
see how much of each of the counterparts has participation in the nesting. So if I put the
Okay.
orange color for female, I would know, oh, this is a female that is coming up, coming. And if I put different colors, I
Okay.
would know. So this is just for like visually, So for example, for all my sites, I chose one particular
Mm-hmm.
color. Like for Masuri, I would use white. For Nainital, I
Mm-hmm.
would use red. For
Mm-hmm.
other side, I would use for Kashmir birds. I used green and yellow, something like that. So whenever
Yeah.
I'm going to that site, even without catching the bird, I would know that this bird is from the same site. It's not like Masuri bird has
Okay.
decided to go to Nainital. So I don't
Okay.
really
Okay.
need to catch them all the time. So that is the purpose of the coloring, and it also helps in making the local people feel connected to their birds, because that is how they.
Uh,
Because metal ring is just a metal, they cannot see that. For the ring
yes. Yes.
colorings, they know, okay, this is the bird. And people were
Nice.
really happy to see their birds are coming back next year after they saw the rings.
It
Yeah.
it makes one bonding, I
Yes.
think, among them.
Yes.
And these colors are not standard, right? These it is completely up to
Correct.
individual what color you want to give to
Yeah,
that
you
region.
can,
Okay.
depending on the size of the leg, you can put as many
Mm-hmm.
color bands, like not many that you are disturbing the
Mm-hmm.
bird to do a normal
Yeah.
job also of day to day
Mm-hmm.
life. So people who want to
Okay.
study, male female interactions, they would put like different codes, like yellow green to one
Mm-hmm.
leg, and in other bird green
Mm-hmm.
yellow. So they're different set. But
Okay.
Bansoras are very small, so I cannot use combinations. So therefore, I just use one ring. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So,
Mm.
uh, let us come to the human part of your research.
Yes.
Actually, I can go on asking other questions regarding barn swallows
Yeah.
and falcons if I
Yeah.
had to, but we have to end it somewhere.
Yes. Yes.
So, let me ask the human part of it.
Hmm.
What are the difficulties you faced? And somewhere you have mentioned
Yes.
um, it was less on when you were interacting with the local people. It was sometime it
Yes.
was your seniors
Yes. Yes.
who
Yes.
judged you. So what all
Yeah.
difficulties you faced as a
Yeah, not
woman
particularly
scientist?
seniors, but like the people I would know, like from some
Yeah.
contact. So it's,
Yes. Yes.
I think it's just like the how the society thinks. I am traveling to different sites. So especially I'm a
Hmm.
female for them, and
Hmm.
so for barn solos especially, they are nesting in houses or shops of people. So
Yeah.
once I am going to collect the data on the bird, I have to interact with local people also. I cannot just barge in and tell them ki I'm working on this bird. I want to take data. Okay, bye. So they would also feel ki, who is this person? Why would they even allow me to get into their shops? So
Hmm.
sometimes like you would meet some different personalities, who would just take you for
Yeah.
granted, like a person who is very she's smiling, she is talking very nice to us, so that means she is like quite friendly. So they would just take that hint, but that was manageable. You know how to, again, like
Hmm.
after working for years and after interacting with so many people, you know how to deal with such personalities. But yeah, this
Yeah.
incident that you have read is just like that person was actually telling me on my face that you should not work alone, or you should not travel alone as a uh, like a lady or as a female. You should be traveling in a
Hmm.
group. And and I, so if a local person is telling me, I won't feel bad, because this is how they are used to think. They are
Hmm.
very in a small environment, and for them also,
Hmm.
seeing a person coming from very far just for a bird in a very far
Hmm.
away village, it would raise, like, they would be very curious, and they would just say such things. But for this particular person, he was a person of the same field. So I was not expecting, because generally the idea is the wildlife ecologists, they know that we have to travel alone, but
Hmm.
sometimes
Yeah.
there are situations that you would go alone and you would collect data. So that was like a feeling of, patriarchy, or how you would treat women, like in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I did not say anything to him, because it was like a surprise for me also why this person is saying that. And one more thing, he was sitting with the local person, and I did not want to make it an issue at that time. So I just listened to him and I came out of that place. So, and at that point, I was like, even if the people who are working in the field would think like that, then what would you expect from others? So yeah,
True.
but yeah, those were some incidents that have happened, but it's fine. I mean, yeah. So just to mention, when I first visited Nagaland, it was
Mm-hmm.
quite a surprise for me, because I am raised and brought up in Delhi, and I know
Mm-hmm.
how you would meet certain people, like on your way out, or if
Mm-hmm.
you're going to college, or you would meet people who would discomfort you. But there I was also traveling alone, but never had I encountered such a difficult situation. People were really nice, and you could, matlab, as a female, I think I can say that you can sense the difference, like how people are looking at you. So that was a
Mm-hmm.
totally different experience for me in Nagaland, or maybe in Northeast India, when it's like it
Okay.
was quite a good change. I was surprised, because I had just come out of Delhi, and for me it was like a totally different feeling. So
True.
in a nutshell, you would feel like you would meet many good people,
Mm-hmm.
and there would be
Mm-hmm.
some outliers also that you have to be careful about. And yeah,
Okay.
yes,
And now, as you are in a position of maybe hiring,
yeah,
so I think you will make sure that
yes,
women scientists or
yes,
female
yes,
researchers who are coming in,
definitely,
they will feel more secure in nurturing environment,
yes,
because now you are in the position of,
yes,
where you can have some
yeah,
authority.
yeah.
So very happy for that.
Thank you.
And maybe we are just ending towards our conversation. What would be your take-home message from your journey till now, from starting from
Okay.
your bachelor's to master's and finally landing up as a scientist in WIA?
Okay. So the take home message is like, when I started, like, I had no clue that I would end up in a field like this. And yeah, for me, it was like quite a nice feeling. Even as a
Mhm.
person, you change. So after so many
Yeah.
years, you evolve in, like, I believe, a better human. And also,
Mhm.
since we are inclined towards nature or wildlife field, so we always have that more connect to our
Yeah.
surroundings and environment. So I think the take home message is, as you move forward, you take on good things, you try to observe more, and start to build on more, and maybe evolve into a more better person and a more better wildlife ecologist. So that's what I initially said. No, I want to expand now, like birds, and
Mhm.
I can add into more things. So yeah, so it's like you never stop at one point. It is this field that continuously ignite your passion. It's like, it's not like it's a job where you would feel at the end of the day you'd feel exhausted. It happens, but then you have
Mhm.
field work to go for, and then you again feel better. You feel good, so you have that
True.
reward after some time.
True. 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 And maybe those young researchers who are listening, maybe I can end that thing
Yes,
with another your words only. What you have written. Hold on tight.
yes,
Don't let other confuse you.
yes,
As you dive deeper, you will know where to go.
yes.
That was
Yeah.
so beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah.
So now people call you Chidiya wali Didi.
Yeah, yeah. So every time I go, they're like, "Oh, चिड़िया वाली दीदी आ गई." And now they're saying कि, "Why didn't you come last year? हमने देखा नहीं आपको, भूल गए." So it's good to connect with
Okay,
people.
so
Yeah.
so very last question कि now anyone ask you और कितना पढ़ोगे?
Oh, no,
Because now you are a scientist.
the question has stopped actually. Now
Okay.
people
Yeah.
are asking that. So initially, like for the first day when I got the result was out. So some of my relatives are confused that I received my degree. So they were congratulating on that. Okay, congratulations on your PhD.
Mhm.
And I had to clarify, no, 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 I'm doing that, but I got the job. But for for those people, it's like, okay, now she has a job.
It's yeah. I think ultimately, when those who are doing PhD and all, that people see as a last resort.
Yeah.
If you have already got it, that means done. You can finish it later, something like that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. But anyways, it was so refreshing talking to you and listening to your stories. Amarjeet, thank you so much for taking
Thanks.
time out
Thanks to
and
you.
sharing all those fascinating stories.
Thanks
Uh,
to you. I hope I communicated well enough, because if somebody start asking me questions on barn swallows or Amur Falcons, I just keep on going and going. And that's why I was taking a break. I was like, let you ask. Let me ask. Like, take a break and
no,
let the other person ask.
yeah, I
Yeah.
loved it. It was so amazing, and I think all those who were here, they would have had good time. Maybe
Thanks.
there are some comments for you. I think maybe you can just have a
Okay.
look at it.
Yeah.
Then we'll wrap it up.
Um, okay. Thank you, Dharmishta. Okay. So these people I know personally, I think. That's why they're leaving comments.
Yeah.
Okay. My brother is there. Thank you.
Mhm.
And then my friend is there. Thank you, Nias. And thank you, Nishant. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll wrap it up here. And if you would like to suggest anyone, please do come in and I will try to reach them out and we'll have this session. And sooner we'll be having more sessions like
Okay.
that. So do follow this page. There will be
Yes.
some more interesting sessions like
Yes,
this.
yes, I would definitely follow
Yeah.
this page. And
Yeah.
whoever is listening and has some question, if they can write to me, and I'm like, yeah, happy to
Mm,
answer the questions. Yeah.
yes, yes. Those who would like to reach out to Amarjeet, they can either write it here. Yeah, there is one more comment has come. You're a great
Yeah,
storyteller.
yeah,
Then a sign. Yeah, I would strongly agree to that. Actually, you can write literally while reading your articles, that reminded me of Rachel Carson's all the books I have
oh,
read.
that's
See Around
a
Us
really
and
big compliment.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So your writing is quite captivating. Someone who is reading can get inside that moment what you have written.
Thank you so
So
much. My goal
so
was to do that, and like, I'm glad to
yeah,
do that.
yeah. Thank you for attending. So now we'll wrap it up. Have a good time. Wish you all the best. I hope to meet you somewhere, maybe in WII
Thank
if
you.
it happens, or maybe in
And then we
Delhi.
can talk about your
And
research also. So because it's just me. So yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. But I would be more interested in listening to more Barn Swallows and more Falcons.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay then. This is it.
Yeah, yeah. See you then.
Bye bye. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. See
Bye.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.